Hello, everyone, and welcome to Comic Channel Origins. My name is Bryant, and this is on the I Have Comic Issues YouTube channel. And today I have the pleasure to have Paul from Sector 2815 as my guest today. And let's welcome Paul into the channel or into the show. Hello, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. Thank you for being here. We're in the same state, but you're in the future. So,
exactly.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be here. I know that Sunday is a busy night for you. You are a man about YouTube on Sunday nights. Um, we did, I just want to acknowledge we did have somebody already pop up into the chat. We have Chris, the comic vet. Welcome. Thank you for being here, Chris. We are not giving away any Jungle Action comics tonight or anything like that might throw you off your game, Chris, so don't worry. All right.
Uh-oh, you just chased him away.
All right, so we'll get into it because I know that your time is limited tonight, Paul. But all right, I want your comic YouTube or your YouTube comic book channel origin. What was when did you start your channel? Why did you start it? And what was your very first video?
Okay, so I was on Instagram at first, which I think probably happens to a lot of people probably before they make the jump to YouTube, is they're on Instagram, and so I would tool around on Instagram and find people that had comic related things, and I came upon someone. His name is Karate Kevin 67, who is Kevin Medina. For those people who don't know yet, he is Superpower Review on YouTube.
Okay.
And he would do a Saturday night show, which was called "What's That Comic Book," which basically was you would just come on and he would have like 3 or 4 people on plus himself, and you would bring like 3 or 4 comics, and you would just go around and you would show what that comic book was, and you would explain it a little bit and maybe how you got it and what the significance of it was, and those type of things. And he would do that, and it would run about an hour, maybe an hour and a half or whatever. And so I would watch that. And every once in a while he would say, "Hey, you know what? If you're interested, if anybody's interested, just reach out to me. I'm Karate Kevin 67 on Instagram, and let me know, and we can have you on the show." And so after a few weeks or whatever, I reached out to him and said, "Hey, my name is Paul. Um, I don't have a YouTube yet, but my consent went up, and I would love to come on your show sometime." And so he said, "All right, because once you get all situated on YouTube, just let me know." And so I got set up on YouTube, and I was thinking about, first of all, the first thing you have to do already, if you have to decide, what's your YouTube handle going to be, right?
Right.
So I always have been a huge Green Lantern fan, and so for those of you who don't know, the Green Lantern Corps is policed by different sectors. There are many thousands of sectors across the galaxy, and the one for Earth is Sector 2814. And so I said to myself, I don't know if DC has a copyright on Sector 2814, so I'm going to go one sector over, and I'll be Sector 2815, and that way, hopefully, I'll avoid if there were any issues with copyrights or anything like that. And so that's how I came up with Sector 2815.
Okay.
I then got back to Kevin. He had me on. He had me on a couple times. I was like, "Oh, this is great," and I would just keep going on and on and on. And eventually, I think I became the person that was on his show the most. He stopped doing the show eventually, but in the meantime, since I was now on YouTube, I was actually going around and I was looking at other people's YouTubes as well, and I found other people that were collecting comics. I found Mark from Comics. I found Steve, Burke Family 54. I found lots of different people that were collecting comics, and I would eventually interact with them, and that's how we became friends. And the rest, I guess, is history. So you can blame Kevin Medina for my being on YouTube, for one thing.
All right. Well, thank you, Kevin. Thank you for that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how it was. And then then it was okay. Now now I'm on YouTube. What am I going to do? Basically.
Okay. And it looks like aggressively had a comment that you might like.
You would have. Oh yeah, that would have been nice. As long as you weren't Arisia, that would have been nice.
Yeah. Which Green Lantern?
Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan is my favorite. Well,
Right.
Alan Scott and Hal Jordan are close because Alan Scott is the OG Green Lantern. So probably Alan Scott, and then probably, and then Al Jordan, and then maybe Kyle Rayner is third would be mine. But yeah, hopefully you weren't Arisia like you were, like Hal Jordan or Guy. Maybe Guy Gardner is probably pretty popular since the Superman movie.
Yeah. And Alan Scott and Green and how and the other Green Lanterns, their powers, are they a little bit different, or are they pretty much the same?
No, they're different. Alan Scott's power basically comes from the Starheart, which is more magical based,
Okay.
as opposed to, although DC did in the 70s and 80s try to, and they may have been, may still be that way now. I'd have to go back and check, but they did try to kind of rope in the Guardians of the Universe into the Starheart as well. So um, whereas Hal Jordan's comes from the emotional spectrum and harnessing the emotional spectrum, which the Guardians of the Universe kind of guard.
Okay. Aggressively went, or AR went as Guy Gardner. All
Nice.
right. Awesome. Do you have those up on Instagram somewhere, AR, so we can see them? Just let us know. uh, Otaka likes Alan Scott for the win, and Otaka is going to be a future guest on the show in I think
Oh,
about
nice.
2 weeks. So, and what was your first video that you made, or do you remember that?
I do remember, because as I was trying to decide what I wanted to do, it was, and it's funny because I don't think I'm a lot different than a lot of other people. Is if you take a look at my very first video, it has absolutely no comparison to what I do now.
Right.
It was basically, it was in some ways a little bit of what you kind of do on your daily thing. It was all about news and everything, and it was designed to kind of, I was kind of designing it to be like a comic book, and so I would do it. It would come out. I would come out weekly as opposed to monthly, but I had this, this design that I would do, what everybody does, the unboxings and the news and, chats with creators and all those different things. But besides, coming out weekly, I would have like annuals, that would be longer. I would maybe have crossovers with,
Okay.
other creators and things like that, kind of tying in, the comic book theme. And that lasted a little while. And then it was like, what, doing all the news and everything, it was fun. It was great, but I just didn't have the time to kind of pull all the assets that I needed to be able to do some of those things.
Oh yeah, that sometimes in the last month and a half to 2 months since I've been doing the daily show, I felt like I've possibly bitten off a little bit more than I can chew.
Yeah, it really
But
is. I mean, hats off to the people like yourself that that can do it on on the cadence that you do it. But and I did interviews with Mark and DJ Links, and I did one with David Wilson from comics book and comic book investments. I did one
okay,
with MJ Comics
oh,
over in
okay,
England. So I did lots of interviews with people to start, and I was doing at least monthly. I was doing the news and everything. I never really got into doing the unboxings though. Every once in a while I would, but
yeah, I haven't done. Well, I haven't submitted anything to CGC yet, so I haven't done any CGC unboxings. But once I do, I'm sure that will be a video at times. But
mhm.
one I like that I actually, I guess I'll be releasing my second video in this little mini series I have is boxes of comic books that my wife bought for me off of Whatnot.
Okay,
That kind of like blind purchases for me. So it's kind of interesting. Get a
nice.
whole like 35-pound box of comic books for a low price, and
Hmm.
it's kind of it's kind of interesting to see what's in there.
Hmm.
So I got one that I'm trying to finish up editing to put out, but it's a longer form video.
Okay.
So, so do you feel like there was a specific moment or video where your channel might have picked up steam or took off a little bit?
Well, as I was coming to the realization that I really couldn't do one, like the multiple times a week necessarily of trying to do news and unboxings and interviews and all those type of things. I was like, okay, you know what am I going to do now? So how is my channel going to evolve from what I was doing? And again, we can blame Kevin Virginia because I went back to what's that comic book, and I said to myself, he wasn't doing it anymore. But I said to myself, that's a great idea for a show. I
Right.
could do that. I said, but what if I did that, but I kind of put a twist on it in that people brought their comics, but we had to guess what they brought instead. And so that's and it was like, and we can do it like a 20 questions type thing, so you can't ask, who wrote it, or you can't ask, because that's too easy,
Right.
to come up with the answers, so we do like 20 questions type thing where you have to ask yes or no questions. And we would then guess from there and see if we could come up. And I also had to limit to, okay, you know what? I can't have, a possibility of, even though it's a lot of comics that could possibly be there, I can't have millions of comics, that people could guess. So how could I narrow it down, and how could I be able to guess what it was? And so that's where I came up with, okay, you know what? We have this app that's out there that's called Key Collector.
Right.
It says it's a key. Whether or not I believe it's a key or not, there is at least someone that we can identify that says it's a key. So if we go by Key Collector as the arbiter of whether or not it is a key or not, that's fair to everybody because everybody's playing from the same playing field.
Right.
And you have the ability to just, there's a little slide on that you can either get every single comic in a run, or you can get just the ones that it has identified as a key. And so that eliminates a good 70 to 75% of the comics that have probably ever been published, from being able to be guessed. And so then I just needed some people to be able to do it. And so I reached out to Mark, who had become friends with, and I reached out to two other people. Um, uh, it was Guaranteed Comics. Now he's Ultra Beam Comics, Jesus, and Omega Red on Instagram, who is Jake Hall. They ended up starting a podcast that they did for a while. And the funny thing is, so we did our first show, and the funny thing is, it was my first time using Streamyard.
Okay.
And if you use Streamyard, in order to start the show, you have to hit go live twice.
Okay.
I hit go live once. So we did the entire show and nobody saw it. So our very first episode is, we kind of, sometimes call it, it's the lost episode of Guess That Key, where we had, and it was kind of, I brought the four keys to start, and I made them all guess. And then after like an episode or two, we said, let's everybody bring a key instead, so I don't have to bring all the keys.
Right. But
And
with 40-something thousand comic books in your collection, I'm sure you got quite a few keys to choose
yeah,
from.
I have a stack of keys here that would last me for a couple of years probably. So
Okay.
and so then we tried it again, and we said, okay, we're going to do it twice. And, we did it again. And it was, this time I remember to hit go live twice, and it went live, and we've been doing it. We did it like once every 3 or 4 weeks to start. And then we settled into an every other week. And we just kind of decided on an every other week one because, it was just us four that were doing it originally for the first few weeks.
Right.
And it was like, okay, you know what, to have people, most people have probably more than 8 or 9 keys anyways, but just to kind of give it some variety. And rather than commit everyone to every single week, we went to every other week, because it can be, I mean, it was 9:30 at the time
Okay.
on a Wednesday night. So, and people have kids, they've got families, they've got all these things going on, and so they got work the next day. And so we ended up moving it eventually to 9. But so that's why we kind of do it every other week, just to kind of, you know, give everyone a break. And, at least, they know that every other week they're going to have, a break, and they're going to have a free Wednesday night. And right now, Mark and I do it every week. And then we have extended it. And now it's basically, we've had over 50 different guests on. So we have two different guests every single episode. And then every once in a while, we still do get Jake and Jesus, and we call it an OG episode of Guess That Key. But yeah, it's fun. It's more about having fun really than and talking to everyone and interacting with the chat and things like that.
So would you say that Guess That Key is pretty much what, like, I guess the staple of the Sector 2815 comic or the YouTube channel?
That, and then also the other thing that I do, and this is weekly. We do what's called a DC Comics deep dive, and I say we because this is Mark and I as well.
Right.
Mark and I are both avid DC Comics fans.
No.
Not that we yeah, shocking, right? Not that we don't. Not that we don't collect Marvel every once in a while, but we just kind of get Jake from State Farm, exactly. We kind of have gravitated toward DC. I think again, this is my opinion. This is no way reflects the opinion of the show. I personally think that DC puts out better stories, and right now, I think with their absolute and everything that they're doing, they're definitely rocking the partners in crime, exactly.
Yeah.
They're definitely rocking the comic world. And so we started and said, okay, you know what? We don't really have, as far as I could see, we didn't really have any shows that kind of went out and kind of went in a deep dive of what DC was doing. And so we started. The first thing we did was, okay, you know what? Every single week we're going to do an episode, and we'll deep dive into either a particular issue that DC is doing or whatever. And we started with Dark Crisis on Infinite Comics. That was the miniseries that they did way back. I say way back; it's probably 3 or 4 years now.
Okay.
Um, and so we went through that. We went through all of the we, Um, yeah, exactly. We went through all of the tie-in miniseries for good or for bad. We went into them as well. And then as things went along, we moved from miniseries to from the that event to the next event. If there was no event, we kind of took a look at a particular what we thought would be an important issue to the DC canon. And then we ended up with we they did DC All In, where they introduced the Absolute Universe, and now there's an Absolute Universe, and so we have kind of settled on doing deep dives on all the Absolute issues that come out. So rather
Okay.
than doing main, miniseries after miniseries after thing, we just kind of following the Absolute Universe as it goes along, and so we do that every Monday morning at 10 o'clock.
All right. Well, got a quick little sidebar right here
Okay,
from Otaku Mike. He's wondering what's your thoughts on the Absolute Green Lantern?
loving it. Absolutely loving it. What Al Ewing is doing with the mythos and everything, with the how the Abin Sur is, and Abin is basically kind of like almost like a rank or whatever within the Green Lantern Corps, and what he's doing with Hal and the Black Hand, and how Joe is now kind of leading the group for the most part. We'll see the next couple issues are supposed to really kind of concentrate on her. But everything that he's doing, we're promised. We saw the Absolute Sinestro not too long ago, so I am absolutely loving the yeah, exactly. I'm absolutely loving the Absolute Green Lantern.
All right. I think we might have actually dropped into this question already about your comic book, about your niche in the comic book community. So I guess we kind of already are touching upon that. Um, so you don't do very many pre-recorded videos anymore, correct? Or like long form videos?
Right. The only things that I do, and you know what, it's for me, it's knowing myself and what can I do, what are my limitations with work and everything else that I have going on in my life, and I'm very much a person. I like to do things in moderation. So, you know, um, eh, and I'm not saying that that's good or bad for anybody else.
Right.
Everyone's different, and everyone needs to do whatever they feel comfortable doing. But for me, it is okay. You know what? I can commit to, and I can feel comfortable with and good about the content that I'm creating. If I do every Monday morning, I do a DC Comics deep dive, and every other Wednesday night, I do yeah, I guess that key. And if I keep that, and I've done that now for 3 years, think I'm probably one of the most consistent people on YouTube, because you always know where to find me,
Right.
on my channel. And then every Sunday night I'm with Mark on his on at week's end. Um, so it's kind of that works for me. That works for my life and how I want to try to keep. I'm going to devote this much time to YouTube, and I'm going to devote this much time to work, and this much time to whatever, and and it kind of works for me.
Okay. Um, wow, we're covering a lot of questions in one. I mean, we're covering a lot of topics, and just like with going from one question, that might be why I know when I did a video with Cliff a month or two ago, and I dropped the link into Gemini and said, "Give me the timestamps." They gave me one big block because I was thinking it would do per question, but no, it gave me like 45 minutes for one question
Hmm.
because we kind of just rolled into it.
Hmm.
So would you say that so what works better for you on your channel? Is it the DC deep dive on Mondays, or is it the guess that key that happens every other week? I mean, I guess purely analytically,
Yeah.
what gets the best watch hours? I
It's
mean,
it's the guess that key, definitely. And I think And I'm not gonna deny it. I think part of it is because I have giveaways. Um, every once in a while, the one of the deep dives will really kind of hit whatever, more than other ones, but guess that key seems to be the more consistent. Also because the the deep dives tend to be anywhere, depending on how many books we look at, 15 to 30 minutes. Guess that key lasts usually at least an hour,
Right.
um, unless we happen to be really good at guessing books that particular week. Um, and like I said, we do, I do a giveaway every single episode as well to try to, I'm not afraid to try to, bring people in, but again, it's more about having fun. I'm not going to jump ahead because I think one of the things I was going to say, I'm probably um, going to answer a little bit later on.
Okay. Uh, well, okay. Here's a question for you on the, I guess the long tail of each of those videos.
Mhm.
Does does the DC deep dive get a longer after premiere uh, viewership than the Guess That Key, or does the Guess That Key have life after the live stream's over? Does that make
Um,
sense? Or
yeah, normally guess that key's shelf life is 2 or 3 days at the most.
okay,
Um, Whereas DC Comics Deep Dive will still, every once in a while, one or two viewers may look at something that's 3 or 4 weeks old, and so it'll slowly tick up. So it definitely has a much higher shelf life than Guess That Key does.
okay. Do you on the deep dive? Do you like uh, I guess try to get specific keywords and meta tags and hashtags to put into your description to help with the search on YouTube and Google if somebody's wanting to know what's happening in Absolute Batman Annual One that y'all might be talking about
Yeah,
tomorrow, maybe?
it's funny
Is
you
that
say that because I haven't, but I've been doing I do some shorts as well that just kind of highlight what I'm going to be giving away
okay?
on Get to Guess That Key, and I do the hashtags on the shorts. I don't know why I don't do them on the deep dives, but I absolutely should.
Okay. Yeah, I would think that might be a good way to help,
Yeah.
especially. I mean, I use a tool that's free. It's called vidIQ. I don't know if
Mhm,
you ever heard of it, but it's like you can connect it to your YouTube channel and it'll actually give you pointers and say,
mhm,
put 200, make sure your keywords show up in the first 200 characters of your
mhm,
description and things like that, and ask for hashtags and stuff. And
mhm.
I don't know, just little things to help out.
Yeah, absolutely. You should
Well,
hashtag the hashtags.
um, so how do you I think I'm going to get rid of this question because I think pretty much it's just the same answer every time, but how do you balance what you love to talk about with what the algorithm wants?
I don't worry about what the algorithm wants. It's
I
more about
kind of knew it. I'm a psychic. I
yeah.
kind of figured that uh yes, vidIQ is similar to TubeBuddy. It's just I know more about vidIQ because they actually have an audio podcast that I can listen to while I'm working. That comes out once a week, and so that's I listen to that, and that's what I know. I mean, so yeah, it's a lot like TubeBuddy.
Okay.
Uh, so yep, your answer to that question is pretty much on par with everybody else that just don't care, just make what you want and
Exactly.
go from
Exactly.
there. Um, and anything else you want to add to that one before we move on to the next?
No, I think I may be adding something at the to the when we get to the last question.
Okay, all right. Um, so the next question I got for you, and you've covered this a little bit, but what mistake did you make early on that you wish someone had warned you about when getting on YouTube?
It really kind of is it is trying to do what everybody else is doing. You know, it was we have don't let Paul fool you, he's an algorithm guy. Maybe I am, and maybe I'm not. Um, you know, it's like, oh, look, they're doing unboxings. I should do an unboxing. It's like, oh, they're doing this. I should do this. It's like, you know, and again, this is gonna not into the lie, but yeah, that's what I'm good at. Exactly. Um, it's kind of going to come back again at the end of the last question, but it's really kind of, you know, and you mentioned it, finding your niche, finding something that is unique to you, even if you're kind of doing something that maybe a lot of other people are doing, is can you find a different way to present it, type of
Right.
a thing, is kind of, something that kind of makes, you know, it's real important to uh, kind of do something that will draw people in, and whether it's how you present it, or whether it's, you know the your personality of how you present it, or whatever it happens to be, something that makes you kind of stand out from what everyone else is doing. Exactly, only 4 people will ever see it.
Yeah. The lost episode.
Mhm.
Yeah, he already told me a little bit about that backstage. Uh, do you want to mention anything about that one thing you've learned about live streaming on YouTube?
Yeah, it was. Well, I think I mentioned it. It was during the first question. It was, or
Oh,
the
okay.
second question. We did it.
Oh
Is
yeah.
it's real important that you hit go live if you're in Streamyard. I don't know about real stream, but if you're a rest stream, but if you're in Streamyard, you have to hit go live twice in order to actually go live.
Yeah. No, with Restream, you just gotta press it once, but I have had it say that I was going live and then it didn't, and I had to start back over. So
Mhm.
it's kind of annoying sometimes. But I am on my side. I'm trying to learn to use OBS a little bit. Try that out some. So
Okay.
a little different. Um, so well, since you don't do too many. Well, do you have a process for planning and producing a video from idea to upload? But I mean, you're pretty much standard, or with you have your DC deep dives. I
Right.
guess you'll have a process for picking the books that you're going to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of, we do we do any absolute issues that come out. Um, if there's no absolute issues that came out that particular week, we'll take a look and see, is there another book somewhere within the DC universe that maybe kind of is tangentially part of the absolute universe, like we had a couple of weeks ago, where there was no absolute book that came out, but one of the Superman issues came out, and if you've been reading Superman, you know that he's been involved with the Dark Side Legion, the Legion of Dark Side, and so which is part of the Absolute Universe. They just happen to come into the main DC universe.
Right.
So it's like, taking a look and seeing, okay, is there tangentially something that we can do? And as miniseries come out, we take a look, or the event comics come out, and we take a look and we see, is that something that we want to talk about, or just mention? Do we want to do a deep dive, or do we just want to kind of mention it because it is impacting like DCKO? We're not going into it because it is a huge event, and there are so many absolute books on their own now that to try to do DCKO may kind of, we don't want to turn it into an hour episode every single week either, you know because we think that kind of the 15 to 30 minute kind of bite-sized things are good for a Monday morning, that may be able, they're more easily digestible and things like that. But we do want to mention it because what's happening in there is going to impact the absolute universe. So we make sure that we take a look and say, okay, we're not going to deep dive it, but let's make sure that we reference it at least. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's consistency is a great thing on schedule and on timing and stuff like that. I mean, like you said, you got it down to about 15 to 30 minutes, depending
mhm.
on how detailed you'll need to get into on a specific book.
Yeah, and how many books came out that week too? So
Right. So yeah, so then your audience can anticipate what they want to commit to.
right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, you get some people that, and again, I'm not judging anyone, but you got some people whose episodes are, for their, what do you want to call it, for the flagship show can be 30 minutes, and then another week it's like 2 hours, and it's like, whoa, what happened? What did I miss? You know, and it's not, and they probably both deserved exactly as long as they are, but it's like, okay, you know what? Am I going to be able to commit to 2 hours when I'm just used to you doing 30 minutes type of a thing?
Right. It's kind of like listening to the 30-minute news broadcast or listening to the Joe Rogan podcast.
Right. Exactly. Right.
I mean, they're both great, but there's a big time difference in the commitment. So
Mhm.
yeah, I know, like on my morning show, I pretty much got that down to where it's roughly hitting about 18 minutes,
Mhm.
18 to 20 minutes on my pacing, which I'm actually pretty good, even though I stumble all over my words, even that it's a pre-recorded. Now it's pre-recorded, not live, but pre-recorded and doing Premiere. But I don't have time to do it with everything else that I have doing. So it's I'm taking the Legion of Comics approach, one and done, and put it out there.
Exactly. That's what you got to do.
Yeah. So I know you use Instagram because I do see those a good bit. How do you engage with your community, and has that changed as you've grown as a channel?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
what do you see any ways that you might be changing how you engage with your community in the future?
I think one of the ways that I have engaged with my channel is, I think I mentioned, we've had over 50 different guests on Guest That Key. I love, the diversity, and, we have some people that they're our go-to people that, if we need somebody because we couldn't find somebody, but I'm constantly looking for new people. Just before we started this, I asked you about coming on, and, hopefully someday you'll get a day off or something from your work, and, you'll be able to come on. But, I'm I'm looking at people in Australia. I've asked them if they want to come on whenever they have a day off. Let me know.
Right.
So hopefully we can get them on. It's kind of hard, obviously, being at 9 o'clock at night in Eastern time. To get people from England, because that's 2 o'clock in the morning their time.
Okay.
It's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning in Australia. So people are at work. But again, hopefully they'll have a day off or something, or I'm still rocking DVH. DVH is going to come on eventually. So he told me he will. He manages to show up in the live chat lots of times.
Right.
God bless him. So, I'm thankful, obviously, for any person that shows up in the live chat. We get a lot of people that come into the live chat and participate. I think we have probably, because we let them ask questions, and everything. So it's, I think we have one of the most interactive shows that's out there, and interacting with the live chat and everything. And oftentimes, they'll get the book before we do, which is depressing sometimes, but hey, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
People, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a few, and
Right.
maybe about a small percentage that likes comic books, but
That's right.
or probably has the Key Collector app. Which
And only
have you
and
thought about reaching out to Key Collector to be a sponsor for your channel? I've heard that they do that with occasional YouTube
I have
content creators.
I have not. When we first went out there, I haven't done it lately, but when we first started, we kind of made fun of a little bit of Key Collector for some of the things that they have out there that are keys or not keys or whatever. But I probably should do that. But yeah, we have 350 million people to go, and 350 million people here, and we only have 349,999,950 people left.
Right.
So
But I mean, I think it would be a great endorsement show for Key Collector.
mm,
I mean, it's all about yeah, just I mean,
people,
it works. You're using the product. It's a great endorsement. So,
yeah, I don't want people to say I sold out.
well, then you can buy more comics to add to your collection.
There you go.
Sure. Um, any other ways or on the community aspect? I guess. I mean, I know that some of the channels have memberships, some
Mm,
don't. I don't know. I know that you have over 500 subscribers
yep.
now, so you are. I don't know how long you've been at that, but
Mm,
I know that you have that. So you have that one component of the
mm.
membership requirement completed. I don't know, do you have the 3,000 watch hours
Yeah,
and the
that's the part that's tough, again, because I only do those 2 things, and I'm
right.
okay with that, you know? So it's tough for me to get the viewing hours, um, it's kinda difficult to get to 3,000 hours, but, who knows? Maybe someday.
Okay. He's talking Mark's talking about how y'all talk about key collectors. They might want to distance themselves. Um, okay. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I did start or for one benefit I've seen of the live streams is it definitely can help your watch hours because
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm still I just passed 600
Mhm.
subscribers like this past week, and it actually I got like but I'm still like only at like 500 watch hours for like the 365-day period. So I still got a lot of time to make up or find. But one, I and we can, this kind of will just we're going to just segue into the next question about
Okay. Okay.
tools, gears, or apps or things that could help your channel grow. One thing that I've noticed over the last month and a half that I've been using is the new feature that YouTube has called collaborations.
Right.
And like my last interview on this channel was with or with the on this show was Lunch Money Comics,
Hmm.
who has uh, at the time um 400 times greater, no, 40 times greater membership base than I do. So collaborate with them on it, and it's gotten like 50 watch hours now, and from an hour and a half video, and I've gotten like 50 plus subscribers over the last month and a half. So
Nice.
I'm very happy with that. And
Absolutely.
I don't know. I mean, I know that, like I told you earlier, that once this video has finished processing
Mhm.
on YouTube's end,
Right.
I was going to send you a collaboration link and hope that you'll accept that.
Yep.
But is that something that you might start wanting to do with your like guest at key? I mean, since you got uh, three other people that have different audience bases that might not necessarily know about Sector 2815.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just collaborated with Rob Fatstacks on the when I was on Only Slabs just over a week ago,
Yeah,
almost 2 weeks ago, I guess now. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for driving the numbers. I don't want to say I'm not. It's not really the most important thing to me, and we'll get to that again when we get to the end. But I check how many subscribers I have every day? Yeah, pretty much I do. Like everybody else does, probably.
right,
Is it the most important thing and what drives my doing what I do on YouTube? No.
right.
But again, we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Um, do you use shorts a good bit, but that's
Yep,
for promoting your giveaways?
correct. Right.
Okay.
And it's funny because it's the same. I mean, it used to be that it would get almost zero views, and then they changed how YouTube changed how they promoted it and how they put it in front of people, and then suddenly I would go like I had like 2,000, 3,000 views, and then the one last week did very poorly. The one this week has almost 1,000 views. And it's funny now because even with regular views, um, it seems as though the second day of whatever it is, it kind of guesstimates how many people it thinks are going to actually view it that day
Right.
because your number goes up. But at the end of the day, if they don't actually view it, your number goes back down.
Yeah, I've done one in the last like week or so where launched it. Hour later, it said it was already at 1,000. I was like, what the? And then later it came down to like 800 or something
Mhm.
like that. And I was like, oh, okay, that's. But on my shorts that I've released, I guess the best way to see if they're efficient or not, I've started looking at under the engagement tab
Mhm.
and looking at the actual watch hours that it
Right.
might have generated. And I've had one or two that's done like an hour or so from a 20-second
Mhm.
uh, short. And I'm like, okay, a 20-second short gave me an extra hour of watch time. I'll take that all day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the video I did, the short I did yesterday for my giveaway, um, within like 3 hours, it was at 1,100 views. By the end of the day, it was down to like 900. I'm like, I lost 200 somewhere in the space of a couple hours, and it's like it's all about it. Kind of, I guess it just kind of maybe through AI or whatever, it kind of anticipates that if the number of people viewing it continues at this rate for this number of hours, this is where we predict you will be. So they're going to give you that credit. But if they don't actually show up, they then take it away.
Yeah. YouTube might be doing some sampling
Right.
of data. Because I know they did change it to where a view is literally if it passes the screen,
Hmm.
they count it as a view, even if you
Right.
don't engage with it or something like that. So
Right.
it is a messy, tricky number to try to understand the value of it.
Right.
Um,
But there are people I know who have used shorts to that have really helped explode their subscriber base.
Right.
So
One thing that I heard on the vidIQ podcast, they were saying that like um, it's not a one for one, like and I think Mark has said this before, probably to you and to others. I know, I mean, we've talked about it, but it can't be a one-to-one comparison between a short and a long form. If you were going to try to get the same out of a short as you would out of a long form, you need to do like 7 to 8 or so shorts to compare to what you could get value wise out of a long form video. So, and that's what the experts have said. So,
that's interesting.
but I mean, because I mean, if you, but they did say that the short is a great way to grow your subscriber base,
Right.
but they might not translate as well over to watching your long form content. Let's see what Mark. Yeah. Yep. What else? Yeah, Mark takes breaks on doing those.
Yeah.
So have there been is there any particular tools, gear, or apps other than Key Collector that you've used to help grow your channel?
No, not really. I mean, the one that I use for my thumbnails is, I mean, I'm not very sophisticated when I do the thumbnails, but I use Canva for my thumbnails, and for doing all these types of the overlays that I do in YouTube. So these subscribers called bandaging numbers.
Well, yeah, there's only two subscriber numbers that actually matter in YouTube. I mean, it would be 500, so you can get open up your first level of monetization, and then 1,000, so you can have AdSense and stuff like that. Beyond that is just if you want a shiny play button on your wall or something like that, is where the subscriber numbers matter at that point. But it's all about, I mean, YouTube cares more about, as far as I've heard and understand, is watch hours, because watch hours is what they can put ads against. Yeah.
Right. Doesn't matter how many people subscribe to your channel if they're not viewing your stuff. And that's one of the things I was going to get in at the end is I would much rather have fewer subscribers, but people who actually watch the stuff I'm doing, than thousands of subscribers who don't watch anything that I do.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've looked at my analytics, and it'll say on my videos, especially, that I have 95% new viewers and 5% returning viewers. So, or I mean, or 5% of my subscribers are coming back to view at times. So I've still got to work on that process for myself. And you use Streamyard. That's your
yes. I'm a Streamyard guy. Yep. Even though they charge an arm and a leg, I use Streamyard.
But do you do the yearly or monthly?
I do the yearly. It just kind of works better for me, and I usually find that I can, when my annual subscription comes up again, it's right around when I usually have, it's usually like right after tax time, so I have the money that I can actually pay for it.
I've heard that some people try to hit it right around Black Friday because they have some good Black Friday sales or something like that. But I don't know. But I don't have more than, I think the most people I've ever streamed on a channel or a live stream at one time has been 4 or 5 others. So I can still rock the free versions.
Yeah. The most I've done is, including myself, would be 6 people. That's the most I've ever done.
Okay. And I mean, you probably do it more for the recording aspect, don't you? Than the
I mean, for Guess That Key, there was one time that I had 5 guests on. That's the only thing, is when we first started, I was having, one day I would have, besides me, I would have 3 other guests. I would have 4 other guests. One time I had 5 other guests, and it was like, you know what? It was taking forever to get through these books. So we kind of limited it to, it's going to be Mark and 2 other guests is what we're going to do. So it was kind of like, because we don't want to go all night either, because there is viewer fatigue that actually does set in. So
Right. Um, all right. So is there any advice or anything else you want to cover before we get into the last question, or you just want?
I don't think so. I think I probably will cover it in the last question. I think if
All right.
so.
What advice would you give to someone starting a comic book YouTube channel today?
Don't do another guess that key. I will come after you. I will find out what you. No, I'm just kidding. Um, um, it really is kind of kind of, we alluded to it, throughout the show, and that is, you know, do what you love. You know, if you know, and this is my opinion. You should do whatever you feel is right. Um, but do what you love, not what you think people are going to want you to do, or what you think are going to get. I mean, there's definitely, there it is important to increase your subscriber base, and to do all the things you possibly can to try to increase your subscriber base. If that's your goal, find out what your goal is first. What's your goal in doing YouTube? Is it to someday be monetized and to monetize the hell out of your channel? If that's the case, then you do whatever you need to do to do that, to get that done. Um, my goal with YouTube is to just kind of have fun and interact with the community and everything. And so, I mean, I've been more than 3 years, and I'm just over 500 subscribers. But I don't, that I'm okay with that. Again, because I'd rather have 500 subscribers. What I do is I take a look and see, okay, what, how many people viewed that content? And how many subscribers do I have? Now I realize that they're not one to one. Not every person who views a particular content is going to be a
Right.
subscriber. But if I take a look at those two numbers, and if I get 100 views, let's say on a video or whatever, or guess that key, and my subscriber base is 500, that means I can say that, theoretically, 20% of my base was viewing my content. I would think that probably there would be anybody who would die to have 20% of their base view their content, you know, because there are a lot of, to Mark's point, there are a lot of vanity subscribers who, for shorts or whatever, who just kind of, they view your subscriber. There are companies that went out there that you can pay to get you subscribers.
Right.
You know, are they viewing your content? Probably not. They're like those. Again, I'm not really trying to but I picture them as those monkeys in Superman that are kind of posting on Twitter. You know,
Hashtag
they're
shit.
exactly. It's, yeah, bullshit. Yeah, exactly. It's a bunch of people in foreign countries somewhere that are being paid to just view your content or whatever, and they're not even looking at it. They're not doing anything. So I'd rather have people that are getting something meaningful from my content and are enjoying my content than just someone who is just viewing it just because that's what they're getting paid to do, or they're a subscriber because I paid somebody to get them to be my subscriber. Again, it's just for me. If your goal is to monetize your channel, paying for subscribers is the right thing to do. Maybe it would be really important for you to do that. And I don't begrudge anyone who that. It's just not me. It's not what I'm doing for you. It's not what I'm looking for out of YouTube.
Right. Um, I know, like, oh, a quick on a little side question. How many comic book YouTube or comic book or YouTube comic book game shows are there on YouTube that you know of offhand? Or I also know that, like, the sphere of influence that, like, we all sit in
Mm.
on our little area of YouTube is probably this small,
Right.
and the comic book YouTube community in general is probably this big, like is much bigger than all of us right now.
Mhm.
But are there a lot of comic book game shows out there that you
As
know
far as
of?
I know, there are not. There have been ones in the past that haven't actually gone more than probably a few weeks, and they've been really good. Cliff did a Jeopardy one for a while. I think Philtastic, I think, did one for a while. Um, Slickly produced, incredible to do. My guess is that probably the amount of time it took to prepare all those, maybe it wasn't worth the return on their investment. Again,
Yeah.
I'm just guessing. One of the things that I tell people this all the time. One of the things I love about Guess That Key, it starts at 9 o'clock. I can nap until 8:58 and beyond. Guess That Key and still run it from, it doesn't take a lot of preparing. It takes time to set up the live stream and do the thumbnail, and runs
Make sure
itself.
you hit the start button twice.
Exactly. That's the only thing I have to do is I have to remember to hit the live button twice. So, but again, those shows
I was
were incredible. I used to love, the Jeopardy one and the Fantastic one. I think it was Fantastic. I'm not positive. They were incredible. Again, I mean the production value on that was incredible. I wish they would come back. Um, yeah. So yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But as
I was watching
there are
some of the.
Go ahead.
I was watching some of the CBCA awards
Mhm.
last night, and I was thinking, I can't recall. There's not really a game show category in there, is there?
No, there's
I mean,
not.
I know that you were nominated for something, but
Yeah, and there are things that maybe you could loosely call a game show, like there's bragging rights, but that's not really a game show necessarily. Where the contestants have to guess certain things or whatever. It's more of, hey, you know what? It's more of a popularity type of a thing, or when I say popularity, I mean people vote, and whichever one gets the highest number of votes, whether it's based on the books that they bring, they get bragging rights. So there's those type of things, but I can't really think of another game show right now currently that's going on. So
well, I think you should put in a request to the CBCA awards about there be a game show category.
mhm.
You want to spearhead it.
Yeah, there you go.
Good.
I'll sponsor it.
Buy those votes, buy those subscribers.
Hey, you know what? Whatever works.
Is there anything else that you would want to cover that we haven't already covered?
I can't really think. Again, it's just it really is. To me, if YouTube is a chore, like anything else, work, YouTube, if it's a chore, is it really something you want to keep doing? We only live once. You know, um, make stuff that that excites you. Do things that excite you. Again, and it can be it can be monetizing your channel if that's what excites you and that's your goal and that's what good for you and that's what you should do is do whatever you need to do to monetize your channel. But you know when you're excited about something, it comes through too.
Right.
The last thing I want to do is get to a point where I say to myself, oh man, I got to do another guest key this week.
Yeah.
Or to start to enjoy the Wednesdays we're not doing guest key more than the ones that we are.
Right. I hear you. I know, like, one of the reasons why I came up, or how I came up with the idea for this particular show, is that one, I like to figure out, or I like to learn how other people that have been doing it longer or are doing it better than me are doing it, so I can learn from experts, so I can uh, be better myself. And so that's the reason why I came up, or how I came up with the idea for Comic Channel Origins, and just thought, and I didn't really see many other people doing it. I mean, when they have interview show, it's more like they're straight up talking about comic books. I mean, we have comic books all around us
Right.
at the time, but this isn't a particular show that is focused on the actual comic book. It's more about the content and the creation of the content.
Exactly, and that harkens back to what I said before. Is to your point, lots of people do interview shows with people, with creators, but you found a kind of a spin on that and say, let's actually talk about the creation of what we do as opposed to what the subject of what we do is all about.
Right.
So,
I like it.
mhm.
It's interesting to me. I mean, granted, I know that, like, one thing I am definitely envious about in the comic book community is that, like, especially listening to like you, or listening to Mark and others, and like the Comic Vet. I mean, y'all see a cover, you're like, oh, that's the artist, the writer did this. And I'm like, it's a good book.
Mhm.
I liked it. I mean, that's about as far as I go on. I mean, or that my knowledge is. I like that book. It was pretty. It had a good story. I liked it. I can't remember who wrote it. I can't remember who drew it, but I liked it.
Yeah.
But
And you know what? And there's something to be said for both. There's something to be said for, you know what? I like it because I like the drawing on the outside, and I like the story on the inside. Do I care who necessarily wrote it? Maybe not. You know, and it's like, and then there are people who want to, who and I think part of that just comes from being around comics for so long, probably too. You just get to know, and you see a lot of the same books on a lot of the same channels, and you just kind of. I have a terrible memory. Mark will tell you that, which is why he does most of the. I mean, he does most of the deep dives, actually talking about what's going on in the story, because I can't remember what I did 10 minutes ago. Um, but he, it's from seeing the same thing and being around, and and things like that, um, and it's, again, it's just from watching lots of different shows and everything. But this show is I think is good in a way, because you know people may not necessarily always admit it, but they like to know how the sausage is made
right.
too. You know.
Yeah. I mean, and the other fun fact about this particular episode is kind of, in my opinion, it could be a little evergreen because it's not necessarily about a particular issue or thing like that. It's
Right.
about how did you start your channel?
Right.
So it
Exactly.
could, and what are tips and tricks and things that you do to grow your channel? So that's
Yeah.
the whole.
Yeah. And I think in a lot of ways, and as you do more and more and more of these, I think a lot of times, um, like you said, do you worry about the content and speaking to the algorithm, whatever? I think probably you're going to get, and you said you have, you're going to get a lot of the same answers from a lot of the creators on some of the different questions. It'll be their own take on it, but some of them will be, I think you probably, when you said yourself, you know what, it's like, I don't worry about the algorithms when I'm doing my content. I just do my content what I want, you know.
Right.
And I think that probably is the same for probably the majority. Not that there aren't some who don't necessarily, do that deep of a dive into figuring out, what algorithms are doing, and should I say the word Batman 10 times, and maybe it'll show up more than if I only say it 9 times or something like that.
Right. Well, and I know one thing that I thought about this weekend that I was going to do is I'm going to try to repurpose some of the past episodes of this
Mhm.
and make episodes about particular questions.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And so have the question, but then have every guest answer to that question. And
Mhm.
it would say it would be one episode, be a very fast episode or a video about how do you balance what you love to talk about with the algorithm wants. And it's all going to be everybody going, no, 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 no,
Right.
no. But I mean, it'd be a good short. That one would be a good short.
Yeah, or even, if you find that it runs a little bit longer, even, one of the things is, if you find that there's a Sunday or whatever, or a week that you can't do one of these episodes, it's a great time to do, like, okay, let's do a best of I have comics issues, and you drop the video that is, okay, we're taking a look at the creator's answers to this question, and it kind of serves as an episode, because, again, consistency. If people are expecting to see this at 7 o'clock Eastern, you know and there's a week that it doesn't show up, they're going to say, what happened, right?
Right.
As opposed to, even if it's a recorded episode and it's a best of, at least they're like, you know what, there's an episode at 7 o'clock on Sunday night.
I hadn't thought about that one, but I mean, that's what they do on the radio all the time.
Right, exactly.
So that's a good idea. I did take last Sunday off. I thought everybody might have been a little
Yeah,
YouTube fatigued off of C3 weekend.
yeah, and it was, I think, the very last part was, it was still going on. The last auction was still going on. It went on until well past 8:30. I want to say like 8:45, 9 o'clock, I think.
Yeah, I think I've sent this to the C3 guys, but I added all up the total time done for all the live streams, and
Yeah.
it came out to 55 hours and 5 seconds
Wow.
was the combined number. And I think they had 8,000 views during that time.
Nice.
So, and then I don't even have any idea of like the actual watch hours that
Right.
was
Right.
created during that time period. But that
Yeah.
was
And the goal was 55,000, and they did 66, if not more,
okay.
$1,000. So
And we got another content creator that's getting a tattoo.
exactly,
I
Cliff.
think think this week or something. I've heard him say. So,
Yeah.
All right. Well, Paul, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Go ahead. Go ahead and tell everybody about what you have coming up. Great time to plug Guess That Key, which is coming up, I think, this Wednesday.
Yep, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, Mark and I will do the DC Comics deep dive on my channel. We're taking a look at Absolute Wonder Woman number 13 and what may be the comic book of the year, which is Absolute Batman Annual 2025. And then Wednesday night, we have Guess That Key, along with Mark and myself. We will have Tony from Comiverse, and we have Slouch and Encounter with Seabazel, Bryant. And our giveaway is a Gabriel Delato giveaway.
Okay.
Gabriel Delato did a series of variants in September for all the Bat Family titles, just called the Gotham series, and we have every single one of them, with the exception of the one from the Red Hood because that got recalled, that he had done. So we have I think it's nine comics in total, all with Gabriel Delato covers. So that starts at 9 o'clock on Wednesday night on my channel.
Okay. And as a past winner of one of your giveaways from Guess That Key, I can say that they're awesome giveaways. So
Thank you.
Make sure you're there watching, not just for the giveaway. It's a lot of great books that everybody brings, but yeah, I think I won your last Summer of Superman giveaway because I got the big Treasury book and the purple.
You got the slab, the 9.8 Bizarro slab, yeah.
Yep. So in the green foil one also.
Yep.
So I got all those right over there on my shelf. I like
very nice.
And so you have the DC Comic Deep Dive tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
And then in just under 29 minutes from now, you and Legion are on his channel for at week 10.
We'll be taking a look at Welcome to Derry, and we'll be deep diving into the new history of the DC Universe issue number 4. And it is the first Sunday of the month, so we'll be doing the Legion Loot giveaway as well. He'll be doing it.
So. Okay, cool. I think I'll plug what I have coming up. Eventually, I'll get a pre-recorded video out about a comic haul or something that I got. The one I told you where my wife bought me like 35 pounds of comics off of Whatnot. I'm finishing that up. My goal is to get that finished by tomorrow, editing wise, and get that out. But I am doing the daily comic issues daily that comes out around 6:45 Central, 7 a.m. Central, or an hour later for Eastern, 7:45 Eastern, where I talk about the 9 or so biggest stories from the previous day in comic book industry, and also include the Cover Price Daily Shakers Report. So got all that coming up. Then next week, I'm still trying to find my guest for this Comic Channel Origins. Might do what you suggested. If I can't, then do the best of. But I'll see about coming up with a guest. I got some feelers out there. So that's all that I have coming up. Thank you again, Mark, for being here. And So and what's your sign off about?
You're now living sector 2815.
All right. Thank you. And we'll see y'all later.